Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm Trip. In this video I'm giving you a little tutorial on how to install lug nuts on your studs without stripping them all to hell. I know installing a lug nut is like step one of the most basic tasks you can do on a car, but people still screw it up. And using a big ooga ooga is one of the fastest ways to screw it up. Using your big half-inch deck is definitely the fastest way, but doesn't mean it's the best way. And some of your wheel and tire shops are probably some of your worst offenders. And over time you're putting a lot of shock into your threads, and you're either gonna strip out your studs, strip out your lug nuts, or even snap it off over time, weakening them. And not to brag, but as somebody who has 2 track cars and a lot of project cars over the years, I take off a lot of wheels and tires all the time. And the way I do it probably isn't necessarily the fastest, but it's probably the most effective, safer way. So what I like to do is I use just a 3/8 smaller impact and not a big like half-inch impact, because this doesn't have enough torque to really torque the lug nut. And once I run it down, then I will go over it with a torque wrench, so I know it's torque to spec. But this is a setup I always take with me: a long breaker ball, 3/8 impact, and a torque wrench, and of course the size for your lug nuts. I like to manually break loose all my lug nuts with a breaker ball. You only have to go just enough to break torque. Then when torque is broke, then you can use your 3/8. There's very little shock on the studs and on the threads. If you're doing this on the front wheels, you want to break your lugs loose while the wheel's on the ground, so the wheel's not turning on you. And once the wheel's off the ground, then you can zap the rest of the lugs off. Okay, next is the part where most people will strip it out. I like to hand start each lug nut onto your lug, like a thread or two, make sure it's started. Don't just put your lug into your gun and zap it on and hope it lines up. It's not NASCAR. Okay, I got a few threads started. Then I'm gonna zap them on in a crisscross pattern in a star shape. Okay, these are on strong enough to hold the wheel on, but I wouldn't drive like that. I don't trust it. It's not torqued to spec yet. That's why I'm gonna go grab a torque wrench and then torque it to spec. I'll definitely invest in a foot-pound torque wrench that goes anywhere from 75 foot-pounds to 150 foot-pounds, somewhere in that range, which is majority of lug nuts are going to be. I torque mine to 90. I think spec is like 89 for this car. I normally go 90. But do a quick Google search on your particular car on what the spec is. Different lug nuts and different aftermarket studs can also change your torque values, so keep that in mind. I do have aftermarket ARP studs on, well, I guess just the front. I have stock ones in the wheel, but I do have aftermarket lug nuts. I had this guy set to 90 foot-pounds. Then I'm gonna torque these in a crisscross pattern again. See how it still moved? Click, click. Always do a double click. Double check. Good. 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 good to go. Like I mentioned before, if you're doing the front of the wheels, you're gonna lower the car before you torque it, because if not, it's just gonna spin your tires. And we thought we were done. Almost, pretty much. If it's just a street car driving around normally, I wouldn't worry about this last step. But if you a track guy, do HPDs, time attack, autocross, drifting, aggressive driving like on the Dragon or other toge roads, you might want to do this last step. Is drive the car for a while, get some heat built up in the brakes and the wheels, do a few heat cycles, then re-torque them. Bet you $5. Like, even though I did not move my torque wrench, but the lug nut's gonna move. So whenever you drive hard and the metal will, when it heats up, it actually gets larger. Which it's very, very, very small amount that it will get larger, which is just enough for your lug nut to loosen just a little bit. And when it cools off, the metal shrinks. So a few heat cycles will loosen your lug nuts just a little bit. So it's not a bad idea to double check them all. That's why if you ever go to like a track day or anywhere you see people checking their lug nuts, that's why. But it's no street car, not a big deal. And that's how I personally do it. Yes, it does take a little bit longer, but I haven't had a stripped lug nut that I've caused in a very long time. It's always used cars, other people's project cars that I buy with stripped out lug nuts and threads and have to replace all that stuff. It's also been a lot of times where I've taken the car to get new tires put on. In the shop, they don't care, they just zap it on with the biggest impact they can find, and they don't torque it, they don't care. Obviously not all shops will do that, just some, especially the smaller ones. I know it's a little extra, but what I always do, I always take the wheels off the car and take it to a tire shop and have them swap them, and I put the wheels back on the car. Not everybody has that luxury, or even has a second car, or even want to put the other wheels and tires in another car, but that's what I always do. But a caveat, some of the newer, fancier impacts do have a power setting. Like, it's okay to use this if you put it on a lower setting. Not as much grunt, less likely to screw things up. So that's fine. No problem with that. Or a more experienced mechanic can just control your trigger finger a little bit to modulate power. But that is it for this tutorial. I know this is not for everybody, but some people need to hear it because they screw this up all the time. If you do a lot of track stuff or plan on, I do recommend going to a ARP wheel stud. They are stronger and will last a lot longer, especially on the lot less likely to snap a stud on track, but it still can happen because the track is rough on cars. But if you want to see more down to the basics tutorial videos, kind of like this, let me know in the comments, and hope you enjoyed it. If you did, if you learned something, or if you didn't learn something, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Peace.